everybody, and welcome to another sunset safari. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Senzo. Now, first up, I'd like to welcome, of course, we've got a conference for one of the schools joining us this afternoon. That's really great. We're happy to have you. We look forward to also all of your questions. But remember, you can still keep sending through your questions, hashtag Safari Live, and also on the YouTube chat, and we will get to them at some point during the drive. So it's very exciting that we have got so many lions on the property. Obviously, last night Byron discovered the herd of buffalo on their way from the north crossing into the south. They did not waste any time now, did they? And of course, we were very lucky this morning. You've got to see an abundance of lions. But here we are on the most western corner of the big plains, just behind the DRC, which is our camp. And here lays a buffalo fast asleep forever, as well as a beautiful big male lion. Now, Cammy, you're wondering what is my favorite animal to observe? It has to be the elephants. They're very interesting, of course. They're always on the move. They're always doing something, and they're quite playful as well. And it's really amazing just to sit and watch and learn from them too. It's quite different to sitting around and watching sleeping cats. Obviously, when you have guests, it's actually a little bit difficult because most of the time guests just come, they want to grab a picture or two, hear a little bit about the animal, and then off they go. But with something like an elephant, you can literally sit there for hours. Now, this big male lion is full. He has eaten his heart's desire. And when I came out just after game drive this morning to have a little look around, because I heard some interesting noises from camp, so I thought I'd come and investigate. And Tristan told me about this buffalo that had been killed right on the edge of camp. I couldn't resist and come past, but he was sitting under a marula tree and he was watching his carcass very carefully. But he's come out into the open now. He's quite lucky because the clouds have come over. The clouds have actually saved him and the wind has picked up, so it's a little bit cool. The reason why he's done this, though, is because there's a whole bunch of vultures that have joined in, and they're scattered all around us. I don't know if you'll be able to see some of them. They're hiding behind trees. Now, Kim, you're wondering what is the temperature? It's 74 degree Fahrenheit and 24 degrees Celsius. So it's not the warmest day we've had, but they're the vultures just at the back. And the vultures actually only arrived quite late this afternoon. I suspect, though, because there was a bit of cloud cover, perhaps it wasn't the ideal weather to sort of catch a thermal and sort of start scouting for breakfast, lunch or dinner. And they only have just arrived this afternoon, but they haven't managed to touch the carcass yet. I haven't really seen any with any full crops, or maybe they've got a little bit to eat, but I wouldn't imagine that this lion would have let them feast upon them. Or especially upon his buffalo kill. He will protect it because vultures will completely decimate a carcass within just a matter of minutes, especially the amount that are hanging around here. Lots of white-backed vultures and lots of hooded vultures, and they're specialists at cleaning up carcasses. They do not leave anything left, just the odd skerrick. Now, Nicole, you were wondering how long it takes for a lion to kill an adult buffalo. That depends. Again, a lot of the times these questions aren't simply just a one-word answer. It will depend on the sort of condition of the buffalo. So if it's a very healthy buffalo, like they are at the moment, we've just come out of our rainy season, there was lots of grass for them to feed on, they're still fairly strong, and they'll put up a good fight. So it can take a lion anywhere from 5 minutes to kill a buffalo to 2 hours. It really just depends on how many lions in the pride is. And again, the buffalo are serious fighters. I've seen, buffalo bulls that weigh almost a ton, not quite a ton, but about 850 kilograms, not small animals, and they will be pulled down by lions, and you think, right, that's the end of it, they're goners, and they get up and they try and escape. It's absolutely amazing. But I'm going to send you across to Tristan now, and he has found the real king of the African savannah.
We have indeed, Taylor. We have got the big boss of the African bush, and that is not a large male elephant, but male elephant nonetheless. Even at this age, he's still going to dictate a lot of what goes on. Now, my name is Tristan, and on camera today I've got a I've got Sebastian, not A. I have Sebastian. I have the Batgam. But a special warm welcome from Sebastian and I to the IDCPS school conference. I hope you guys will enjoy the next few minutes with us as we explore a little bit of what goes on out here. Now, for the rest of you, remember, hashtag Safari Live on Twitter or on the YouTube chat if you want to ask any questions or send through any information or anything that you would like to say, really. Tia, you wondering what the season is right now? Well, Tia, we're at the end of our winter season, so we're starting to march towards our spring. In South Africa, and particularly in this part of the world, we find that our summer season is normally from about end of October all the way through to March. Then we have a very short fall period, which is around April, and then we go into our winter from May, June, July, August, and then a very short spring again for September, and then into the summer months again. So we're very, very short in the changing of seasons, but we have nice long summers and long winters, and our winters here at least are not too bad. We still have beautiful weather, as you can see now. Tamatria, you were wondering how long our rainy season lasts. Well, Tamatria, we have basically two separated seasons of rain. We have a first rain season, which is normally around September, October, a little bit into November. Then tends to be quite dry from November, December, and then we get a second rain season in January, February, March. This year, however, it was a little bit different. We didn't get much rain at all at the end of last year, and we had only rain coming in really at the back end of our summer. In fact, our rains only came in late March, early April, which is very late, and it means that a lot of the areas around here are still very dry. We had a very bad drought a year ago, and then this rain season that we had now was not as good as we should have either. So we've had a very dry, that's why it looks as though it's all dead and the grass is dry and very little grass in the area and no leaves on the trees. Our elephant bull is leaving us behind though, so we're going to try and keep up with him a little bit. Often with Ellie bulls is that they can be, especially younger ones like this is only probably in his 20s, which means he's still a youngster, and they get a little bit nervous sometimes of the cars. So we're going to try and see if we can't get a little closer to him, and while we do that, let's go back to Taylor and the beautiful male lion with his kill.
My animals are definitely not going to up and disappear into the bushes. Well, one of them could, but the other couldn't, unfortunately. Now, it's going to be quite interesting to see what develops from all of this, because I'm sure this Birmingham boy, and his name is Nsuku, is going to get thirsty at some point, and that's typically what happens. They do get a lot of their water though when they feed on the buffalo from the blood. Now, Kim, you're wondering, where are all the lionesses? Well, that's a good question. I'm not actually sure. I know Tristan said they were somewhere on Mvubu Road, which is not too far away from here. Whether they're still in that same area, I'm not too sure. So we'll just have to wait and find out. But the lionesses don't just do the killing. That's a big misconception that unfortunately the male lions have been painted with, that they are lazy and they just lay around and do nothing and let the females do all the work. That is absolutely not true. And it actually was this Birmingham, by the sounds of it, and one lioness that brought this buffalo down, this buffalo cow. So she's not as big as a buffalo bull, but she's still quite large inside. She looks like she's fully grown. So I think they would have... I can't believe we didn't hear the distress calls, though. Very interesting, because it's very close to our camp. Now, Francis, you're wondering if that buffalo is bloated or pregnant? It's a bit difficult to tell, isn't it? It's still fairly fresh killed, was only killed this morning, quite late this morning, in fact. So maybe she was pregnant indeed, but we're not going to know until they open up the stomach. They haven't really started eating this buffalo at all. They've only just started nibbling at the sort of hindquarters, not even at the hindquarters, but at the rear end. That's typically where they start. The tissue is nice and soft. You can see they've removed the tail, and they'll eat away there. But once this other lioness that comes back, from what I understand, it sounds like it's the youngest Nkahuma lioness that was with Nsuku. He's gone back to the den site. And she's got we think she's got at least two little cubs. So she should come back again. She's just gone off to suckle them. But thank you so much for the conference, for joining us. It was really great to have you, and we hope that you all jump on board soon and we get to spend a little bit more time with you. But we're going to go back across now to Tristan, who's searching for the African grey giant.
Well, I would say that was a successful introduction to Safari Live for that teachers' conference. And Taylor, we are searching for our big African grey elephant, but we haven't had to search very far because our bull is now being a little bit more obliging and is actually staying quite close to us. Seems to be a little on the nervous side. I wonder with the wind that is blowing at the moment. It is quite a strong wind that is out, and often elephants will be a little bit nervous in wind like this. They don't quite like it. When it blows, they kind of feel a little uneasy. It disturbs their hearing. Also, lots of scent gets blown around. We know there's a lot of lions around at the moment, so maybe he's come from one of those directions where he's sniffed out lions. You can see his trunk is constantly working all the time, and that's why he might be a little bit on the edge side. I'm going to try and quickly just get forward so that we can see him cross the road. From there, I'm going to leave him on his own because I don't want to pressure him. I see there's a bit of tracks for an elephant herd going towards Twin Dam, so I might just go and check there, and maybe we'll see our friend later when he joins. But you can see he's now shying away from the road already, so he's not really that comfortable with us, especially when the vehicle is on. Now I need to just turn off my windscreen wipers. Not that I have them, but I pulled the lever for the windscreen wipers. We're making a very big noise, so we just have to get rid of those. But you can see as soon as the car's off, he goes back to normal walking. When the car's on, his walk hastens. So we don't want to pressure an animal in any way. We want him to rather have positive experiences when it comes to vehicles, and so we'll give him a bit of distance and watch him amble across the road, and then I think we'll carry on ourselves and leave him to his own devices. But he is going to be a spectacular individual later in life. He's got beautiful ivory already. He's still, like I say, quite a young lad, so he's going to definitely get slightly larger, and you'll find that those tusks are going to get big, and hopefully one day in 20 years time he'll be roaming around Djuma as one of the bigger tuskers that are out in Kruger. Jason, you say he is a beautiful boy. Well, he is. He's a magnificent specimen for a young individual. Like I say, his tusks are quite big already, and he's got nice big bulk already, so he's going to be tall. He's going to be a large individual in time. Right, Ellie disappearing, so we're going to just meander along down towards Twin Dams to check there before we go and follow up on the Nkuhuma Pride. I know the three other Birmingham boys are passed out in a buffalo coma up at Sydney's Dam at the moment. They are all flat and tired and sleeping, so I'm going to try and go and use my time to check around for maybe one of the spotted cats. Ali, you say I should look for Tumba. Oh, Ali, I think that's a fantastic idea. Little Tumba in my life would be absolutely perfect. I would be very happy to have that, so maybe we'll do that, go and check up towards Cheetah Cutline. I don't know if anyone even did that area this morning with all the chaos that was going on with our lions. And then once it gets a little bit cooler, I think I'll start heading to try and find, and if the Nkuhuma Pride are still flat, then we're definitely going to finish up by going to those three Birmingham boys, because what I'm hoping for is that Nsuku starts to call and the other three start to call, and we then see them start to come together. And wouldn't it be a fantastic way to finish out if we had the three striding in towards Nsuku and we had all four roaring together? I think that would be a fantastic way to finish. So Tumba first, lions later. That's the plan of action while we try and pull off a proverbial miracle. Let's go back to Taylor and see whether or not she's going to be sticking around with her Birmingham boy. I'm sure she is, because she must be relishing the fact that she can spend some time with the beautiful Nsuku.
I am indeed, Tristan. I love the lions so much, not quite as much as the elephants, but I do enjoy their company, and I think this could be quite exciting, and I think it's going to be exciting for a number of different reasons. We're waiting for that lioness that's gone off to feed her cubs, which is a really good sign, to come back, of course, and feed again, which will be very nice. It'll also be nice to see if we can see some decent suckle marks now, just to, reassure us that those cubs are doing all right. And then, like I said, it'll be nice to see if Nsuku gets up and goes for a drink, because I might not follow him to go for a drink straight away, because the vultures will sort of swarm this carcass and try and devour as much as they can. while he goes away. That's if, of course, he takes that risk and leaves. He knows if he gets up and moves, there are many other predators that could move into this area and completely, well, eat the carcass while he's not around. So I think he's going to hold off for now. Perhaps he'll wait for that lioness to come back. Maybe she won't go for a drink, but she'll sort of stand guard at the lion sighting. But only time will tell. I was actually just saying this morning that it's been sad. This year we haven't really, well, just after the rainy season, we haven't really seen much vulture activity on carcasses. And it's one of the most amazing things to see. Last year we were very lucky, or even in 2015, I wasn't here though, but there was so much activity with vultures on carcasses, especially when there's no big predators around. It's so exciting to see the dynamics between the birds. Obviously, if the lappet-faced vultures are around, they take charge, they chase everybody away. And again, if it's just the white-backed and the hooded, then the white-backed vultures take charge and chase the smaller hooded vultures away too. And the way that they sort of squabble, they hiss, they open their wings to try and intimidate one another, it's really incredible. But also, I'm still waiting to see that sighting of course, the vultures bathing after a dirty meal. That's a sighting that I haven't had the privilege of seeing yet. But there are vultures everywhere in the sky today. Very interesting question. Jack's mom, you're wondering how far is the den site from the buffalo kill? Well, Jack's mom, as the crow flies, it's actually not too bad at all because it's just off of the power lines road. I would say maybe a kilometer, maybe just over a K away. So at 1.6 miles, not very far at all. But that's quite cool. So which way are you looking? So you're looking down there. So the area that Senzo's sort of scanning in now, that's there. Well, we had to go a little bit more to the north, so a little bit more to the left, but that's the direction where the Birmingham boys are that Tristan was talking about, and that I think he had them this morning at Sydney's Dam. And I have seen vultures taking off from there in the far distance. Oh, does that look like a drongo or something? Or even actually a dove that just flew across your screen. And I heard from Jors, one of the landowners in Buffelshoek, that those Birmingham boys have almost finished that kill. So I think, and this is what Tristan and I are hoping, is that those Birmingham boys are going to come this way and join on this buffalo kill because they've barely touched this. That will be so exciting. I've never seen all 4 Birminghams together. I've only ever seen 3 together at one go. And that was Tinyo, Mfumo, and Nena. But it would be nice to have the 3 that at Sydney's Dam come this way, and even imagine when you have the whole Nkuhuma Pride and all 4 Birminghams. That's been a long time, I think, since any of you have seen that. I'm sure you would have seen it quite a bit when the Birminghams did their takeover, but they've been very busy sort of marking their territory. Since I know it's a hard, let me go around and just want to change it up a bit. Obviously, it's quite difficult to get varied shots when you have a lion sitting so close to his carcass, but I want to show you where they've started eating. So we'll just do a little bit of a wide berth around. Not that he minds, I promise you, probably drive a meter away from him and he wouldn't even care, but we won't do that. I just want to pop around this way without us getting stuck in the thorns, of course. It's not going to be the greatest view of Nsuku. So Enzo, just watch those little thorns there. There we go. And we've got a nice view now. Not in the nicest view, I just want to show you how much they've eaten. Philbia, you're wondering if anything will eat the buffalo's horns. Actually, funny enough, yes. You'll find the horn moths will utilize the horns, the keratin moths. So there's not really much else that will feed on it. I don't even think the carrion beetles will eat the keratin. You'll find something like hyenas will eat hooves. They're able to digest that, but they won't really munch on the horns. There's not much there, but they'll definitely go for the hooves of the buffalo. They'll eat the bones, they'll eat everything. That'll be a very interesting sighting a little bit later. We all know how close the hyena den is to quarantine. So are the hyenas going to be brave enough a little bit later and come this way and try and chase the lions off? If it was just that lioness on her own and Suku wasn't here, I'd be quite confident in saying that's going to be a very exciting behavior to observe. Can you imagine? A couple of hyenas adults versus one lioness. They'll definitely take on. But hyenas are petrified of male lions, and they have good reason to as well. The male lions are not afraid to continue with the chase. And if they catch a hyena, that hyena is it's not going to live. They unfortunately will kill it because it is competition out here. But he's guarding this buffalo. He doesn't look like he's going anywhere right now. Now, Brenda, you're wondering if this dead buffalo stinks. No, not yet. We're actually sitting upwind now, and even when we were downwind a moment ago, you know what? The only thing you can smell is that very iron smell that you get from blood. It smells like a hospital, really. But this carcass is still fresh. But in the next 3 or 4 days' time, it's not going to smell very pleasant. It's also been sitting out in the open, which is a bit of a risk to do. Now, we know there haven't been many buffalo around, and with all the vulture activity, and I presume the hyena activity that's going to pick up a little bit later tonight, that could also attract other lions into the area. So the Styx pride could see something like this and start moving on in. The Torchwood pride, they could see all the vulture activity and start edging their way a little bit further south and west, and that could be big problems. Maybe big clans of hyenas will come in too. And I wonder where that herd of buffalo has also gone. But I don't think they'll be on the property anymore. They've probably run to the Sabi River by now. But it's cooled down quite a bit. It's actually really pleasant now. It's not hot at all. Even though he is laying in the sun, it'll be fine. It'll actually be quite nice. But let's have a look at some of the vultures, since we've actually got a nice view of the vultures sitting in that marula tree above us. So the vultures are all over at the moment. A lot of them in trees that fortunately we can't see, but here's one example. And these all look like white-backed vultures, balancing dangerously on twigs. Those aren't branches, those are twigs. Very brave vulture. I mean, a vulture's not a particularly light bird either, especially the whiteback. But it's a lovely shot. I love the mottling on the feathers that you can see. That light is beautiful. The darker colours, and then the sort of it's almost bronze, don't you think? And of course the fluffy white head. I mean, you can't see it now, but there's a patch of white in between their wings too, which is where they get their name, white-backed vulture. But look at those robust bills. See that? Sharp hook on the end. So white-backed vultures are one of the vulture species that are able to actually open up carcasses. Something like a hooded vulture would not be able to tear through the thick hide of a buffalo. So they normally need to wait for something like a leopard-faced or a white-headed, and even then again the white-backed vultures to come through and tear it open. They can feed on it, of course. This is the hooded, because they can tuck in from the rear end, as the lions normally do. It's soft, so that's all right, but they'll be quite restricted as to where, of course, they can feed. And an amazing adaptation that the vultures have is they sort of lack feathers on their heads and on their necks. They're there, but they're very sort of small and underdeveloped. And this is great for stopping the spread of disease. Very important. And that's why I say to you, I really want to go and watch vultures bathe after they've had a mess. I don't know why I haven't seen that before. I must have just kept missing that. Now, of course, World Vulture Day is coming up on the 7th of September, so to start taking lots of screenshots. So you can prepare. Oh, not 7th, 2nd. Sorry, there's a bit of wind there. I didn't incorrectly heard Megan. The 2nd of September, sorry. So start taking those screenshots so you can share share with everyone your favorite pictures. Wouldn't that be nice, don't you think? There's a couple of them. I actually don't see any hooded up in the tree. I did see some hooded when we drove in. They were sitting on another marula, but these ones all just look like white-backs, and we know that the white-backed vultures have already started nesting. There's a nest on Chitwa. We have a nest just off Philemon's cut line, Zoe's Junction, and I'm sure there are many more. I remember there was a nest last year on Cheetah Plains, and I'm sure they're scattered throughout the entire property. Remember, we don't have roads everywhere, so we don't have access to all the big nests, but it's really nice to see, of course. I'm just wondering, though, at some point if we shouldn't maybe take a drive down the Power Lines Road and perhaps do a little circle, do a little loop around all those areas to see if we can't catch that lioness. Those cubs are still a little bit too young to come out and sort of join on the kill. I think maybe in the next 2-3 weeks or so you'll have your first sighting of those cubs, if they do make it to that age, of course. Remember, it's a very tough life for those young lion cubs, for any of the animals out here, to actually make it to adulthood. But it is nice that she has got Mr. Nsuku around, because I don't think a hyena would want to mess with him, like I said. But really cool. But he's actually not even panting that hard, so he's full. But he doesn't have a beach ball belly like what we've seen before. And we know the lions like to gorge. So perhaps he will sit up and start eating in a bit. Now, Roshni, you're wondering, what is the reason behind lions eating at the hindquarters of a buffalo first? Well, they actually don't even start at the hindquarters. As you can first see, they start at the rump. So they start around, and they'll normally pull the tail off. They start eating around the anus. They sometimes will even pull, if they can, stick their head in far enough, the stomach contents from this side. They'll start pulling all that out, all the intestines out. They normally bury that straight away. But they haven't really touched this buffalo. Then they'll move on to the hindquarters. They really want to eat the best part of the meat first. So, to an extent, I suppose you could say that lions are picky too for the first mouthful. But if there's 10 lions on a buffalo kill, then they just grab whichever part of the buffalo they can, because you definitely have a lot of squabbles over a carcass like that. And if you're not the biggest and the strongest, and if the big males come in, they'll chase you all off and they'll take it for themselves if you were wasting your time trying to be too picky. But they'll probably open this buffalo up, I'm sure, a little bit later. Like I said, pull out all the stomach, then they'll eat the liver, they eat the heart, they eat all these things. That's very, very high in minerals, in iron and all these different things. Now, Monique from London, you're wondering what Nsuku's distinguishing features are. It's hard to show you now because he's laying down, but his ears are actually quite tattered. From what I've noticed, both of them, they're not very clean ears. But for me, when he does a big yawn, his canine on the bottom left, if I'm not mistaken, is actually chipped. And he's got quite a clean face. You'll have the odd scratches on them, and then he also has very, very golden eyes. And he doesn't have the darkest mane either. Tinyor's definitely got a darker mane than him. Nana, I think, has also got a darker mane. Mfumo's still growing his. He's got the smallest mane of the boys, but I think he's a couple of months sort of younger than the rest of the boys, so he'll get there eventually. He's an impressive lion. He's definitely not small when it comes to body size. But Monique, if he does sit up, I'll go through them again. Maybe it will be a nice chance to demonstrate. Or if he sits up and he pants, you can actually see that tooth quite easily. But don't worry, Monique, if it takes you a little bit of time to try and identify the lions, because I still forget, and I sometimes get to see them every single day. You know, if they're laying flat down on the ground, it can be quite difficult. So you just sort of have to look for as many features as you can. I wish we could get all those Birmingham boys together. That would be honestly and truly amazing. What a great send-away present that would be. I think I'd be very spoiled if I saw something like that. Oh, look, the vultures are flying. The Rexon's just driving past the tree, so the vultures are all moving off. They're quite nervous, in fact. There they go again. You can start to see that white on their back now. Shoo, but they'll come back. They won't go far. There was only one that was brave enough to stay on the tree. He's going, where are you all going? Why are you scared of a little car? That one not giving up its spot. Oh, imagine seeing a lappet face come flying in too. That would be spectacular. Haven't seen a lappet face vulture in quite some time. Hey boy, very quiet. I don't know what happens. You move and he'll start eating. And he hasn't eaten anything more since I saw him at, I think it was like about 12 o'clock, just before past 11 today. He has not eaten anything else. Now, Monique, another question from you, wondering if I've seen any jackal around the carcass. No, I haven't seen any ears lurking in the long grass yet, but they'll definitely keep their distance from them for the moment. I do find, though, with a black-backed jackal, they seem to be a lot more bold than the side stripe. The side stripe are quite shy, in fact, and they're cheeky. A black-backed jackal will come running in and sneak up if the lions are sleeping and actually try and steal a morsel, but it won't be very easy for them. Again, this buffalo is completely intact, barring a small section of its jawline being feasted upon, and then of course the rear end. There's not much. So, you know, jackal would come in and say, try and steal something like that piece of tail, but that's lying right at Nsuku's face, and I think he'd literally be staring death in the face if he tried to do something like that. And they're not stupid jackals. They do take a chance, but they're very quick, and they can zip away if need be. But if they get told off once by a lion, they'll probably sit and wait until they go away and go for a drink. But a lion is not really worried about something like a jackal. They won't devour the entire carcass, in 10 minutes like 30 vultures could do. Literally. Those lions could walk down to Vulture Dam, say if all of them were here, have a drink for 5 to 10 minutes, and by the time they got back, a good portion of the carcass would be completely devoured. And we had a sighting like this. Remember, it was near Buffelshoek Dam. I think the lions had killed a waterbuck carcass. A waterbuck, it was then a carcass, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think there were any Birmingham boys. There were just the females. And they left quite a bit of the waterbuck. They walked away to go to Buffelshoek Dam to have a drink. And then I said to you, let's go and watch the vultures. And we actually ended up missing the vultures. We were only with those lions for a couple of minutes. We came back. Remember, those bones were picked clean. Maybe some of you remember that sighting. You can actually share it and show the difference. It was absolutely incredible. They're amazing, very powerful birds. Right, let's maneuver around again. I'm just trying to see which way we'll go out here. Sorry, Sensor, watch those thorns again. I just need to turn the core. Alright, let's have a look. Seems as though Tristan's having a few problems with gremlins. So here's another view of the buffalo. It's not the nicest, unfortunately, but this is just one of those things. It's something that everybody needs to remember, that this is natural and it is normal. The lions don't know anything different, but you can see how one of the lions is actually chewed on the jawline there, exposing the bone and some of the teeth of the buffalo. But there's a lot of meat on this animal. But if all 4 Birminghams come, 5 lionesses and the 6 older cubs, I reckon they could easily, by tomorrow morning, they could finish off this buffalo. That's because that's a lot of lions. 9 adults, and then of course 6 sub-adult lions. They need quite a bit of food. Laura, it's great to hear from you again. You're wondering, how do male lions decide who to form a coalition with? Well, typically a coalition is formed from the same pride. So they're not necessarily blood related in terms of they're from the same mother. They could be from different females within that pride. Hello, boy. And they're all of similar age. Again, they don't have to be at the exact same age. They could be a year apart, and they'll go off together. And then, of course, it's not uncommon to see sort of 1 or 2 young lions meeting up with another young lion, and then they end up joining, forming coalitions. And I have told the story of the 2 really old male lions, Solo and Freddy, I think their names were, I've forgotten now, down in the southern sands. They're old boys, not dominant males anymore. They'd been kicked out by younger, stronger males, and I think one of them was 10, the other one may have been about 12 or something ridiculous, and they formed a coalition. They thought, well, why be on our own when 2 heads are better than 1? And they joined up, and off they went, and they lived out their retirement together. I don't know where they are anymore. I haven't seen or heard from them for a very, very long time. And it wouldn't surprise me if the younger males that were roaming the area actually took them out. That's what just happens out here. But it's a very sad scene, of course. It just shows you how protective these animals are over their meals. He doesn't even look like he's groomed himself, and I'm talking about Nsuku, of course. He still looks like he's got quite a bit of blood around his face. Hey, and he's biting flies now. Right. Hopefully, he's going to wake up and continue eating. That would be spectacular, so we'll be a bit patient. Tristan, however, has found some signal. Let's go see where he's been.
Yes, Taylor, I don't know what's going on today. The gremlins are in full force down near the Mulawati. They just won't let us show you a beautiful view of Short Trunk and her herd. Now, interestingly enough, Short Trunk has made a friend. So this is our newest member of the herd that we haven't seen around with them at all. It's a young male, that is in amongst them, and he's just off the end. You can see the rest of them are moving off in the distance, and that's Short Trunk and the young ones that are going off that way. And then there's this young male that seems to have joined up with them. So I wonder if he's going to stick around for a few days. They haven't been aggressive to him in any way. They've been sitting and dust bathing, and we're trying up and down, trying to get a better view of them. But alas, it just seems as though that particular area there is just gremlin filled. So unfortunately, that's why we had to come back to the top, and we'll just sit with our lovely little boy instead. He's still a very young elephant, as he must be in his late teens. He's not an old boy, in fact, even mid-teens, I would say. So he's still got a long way to go before he's in any way a big male that's capable of throwing his weight around and trying to mate with the females. We might find that just because he's been... So that's him telling me that I'm a big boy. Don't you say that I'm little. But you'll find that he's probably been cast aside by his herd fairly recently, and there's still that desire to be with other elephants and to try and stay with other elephants, and that means that he's latching on to different herds. And if this herd, being a small little group, if they're tolerant of him, then he'll follow them around for quite a while and try and see. Now, he is an easy one to recognize because he's only got one tusk. You can see his other tusk is missing there. Now, I know that Taylor calls one of them one tusk something, but I'm not sure if this is him. Maybe it is. He's got a little hole in his ear, so he should be easy enough to recognize. You can see he's sniffing all the dung for a lot of the other elephants. You see there's a few balls of dung at his feet. So he sniffed those first, and then he's going to tuck into his tree. It's interesting to watch them feed because they're feeding a lot off the young leadwoods that line the banks of the Mulawati. The poor leadwood is getting absolutely hammered. There's no particular reason for them eating the leadwoods at this time of the year. They don't have their seed pods yet or any flowers, so it's just more that they're just mixing up their vegetation requirements and their nutrient requirements to try and get as much as possible. But I see Short Trunk's herd has moved off now. I can't see them at all. Seb, did they go up the river or did they...
I think so, eh?
I wonder if they're not heading towards the water hole. It might be quite nice if they do. We'll go and have a little look just now, see if they're there. But while we have poor signal, it's better for us just to stop and enjoy our young male as he negotiates his way through a leadwood. You can see though, look how he uses his tusk. It was actually really cool. While we were trying to find signal just now, I was watching Short Trunk and the way she was feeding, because she was trying to feed off grass, but small little shoots of grass that grow on the ground, and it's really very difficult and it's meticulous work. But she uses her feet, so she kicks and she opens that up and she finds the roots, and then she uses her feet to be able to pick up the grass stalk, and then her trunk pushes against her foot and then she breaks it and then pulls it up into her mouth. It really is quite fascinating to watch. I'm going to try Seb, I'm going to try go forward for you a little bit because Seb's got a whole bunch of branches in his way there. So I'm just going to try and edge forward. Hopefully the gremlins won't jump on while I do that. There we go. That's better, eh, Seb?
Yeah, thank you.
There we go, he's still just ambling around. So that leadwood bush is now no longer tasty. It's on to the next tree that grows, which is another leadwood further downstream. So what you'll find is these trees... Oh no, now he's gone behind that tree. Stacey, you say you always feel bad for the young males that have to be shoved off. Well, I know, Stacey, it's not a nice thing, but otherwise, if they stayed, unfortunately there would be a lot of inbreeding, and then we would find genetically there would be a bit of an issue. So we need kind of variation, and we need them to distribute and go into different areas so that they're not mating with their siblings or their moms or their aunts, and that means that the genetic code is going to be much stronger and they'll become much more resistant to diseases and all kinds of other things. We know that elephants are one of those animals that are very resistant. They very seldom fall foul of anything sort of disease related. They every now and then can suffer from anthrax, and there was a case of an elephant dying from human TB last year, and that was probably one because of a compromised state due to the drought, and two because it probably drank water from somewhere where there was people drinking water that had TB, and that's how he's contracted. But it was the first case recorded in the Kruger Park of an elephant dying from human strain TB. Now, what's really quite nice with this picture is at the base of his feet there, if you ever wanted a comparison of how big a buffalo skull is to an elephant, there is a buffalo skull tucked away in the bush. It looks like a buffalo skull. think it is. It's just the horns have broken off. But that gives you an idea of just how large elephants are when you see that in relation to its leg. The buffalo's head is about the same thickness of the leg of the elephant. So really, elephants are massive. And this is a tiny elephant. He's not a very big boy in comparison to the really large males we get. The large males that we get, that skull would probably be the circumference of his foot, which is really quite something. So nice little comparison to see. It's not every day that we're going to see that. It's a pity that the skull is not a little bit more sort of out of the thickets and viewable, but it's still a nice thing to see. Shayna, you're wondering how we tell male and female elephants apart? Well, Shayna, when they're a little bit younger, it's quite tough. But what we do is we look at, first and foremost, the easiest way is to look at the forehead of an elephant. So you'll find bull elephants have a more rounded, dome-shaped forehead, whereas the female elephants, should I say, have a very squared, abrupt end to their forehead. So it's quite obvious when they get a little bit older. When they're still younger, not quite as much. You'll also find with bull elephants is that their tusks tend to be much thicker. They're not as thin as what the females are. And in a young elephant like this, his tusks are already the thickness of a very, very old female elephant. So that's why we know it's a bull. Also, the space between the front and back legs, much shorter on a bull elephant than it is on a female. And you'll also find that their front legs very, very long in relation to the size of their body. Females tend to not have that same shape because their stomachs tend to hang a little bit because of the space that is needed for the calves and the stretching that happens after they have all of these calves. Remember, their calves weigh close to 300 pounds at birth. It means that there's got to be a bit of space for them, and that's also why the distance between the back and front legs is slightly longer on a female than it is on a male. Now, I believe Taylor's beautiful Birmingham boy has decided to actually sit up and have a little look around, so before he flops down again, let's go back across to her.
Well, there we go, Monique. Started off, you can see his bottom left canine is broken, like I said to you. So there we go. I was hoping he was going to do that. He's done one yawn for us, which is really good news. Well, here we go. Here's another yawn. Oh, I'm so tired. Rest of his teeth look like they're in good nick. Exhausted. Tough day out. At work, I suppose this is work for him, isn't it? So hopefully this is good news. Hopefully our patience is paying off. Now I apologize, you might hear some muffling at my hair. My hat keeps blowing off in the wind. So I just need to readjust everything. There we go, I've readjusted. Yes, you catch those flies. Now, it's cooled, even in since I last spoke to you, it's actually dropped the temperature quite a bit. I might have to put a jersey on myself. And Suku, of course, doesn't need a jersey. He's got a lovely thick mane, which acts like a scarf, I suppose, as well. My real reason behind that, of course, is to protect his neck. Let's see. Yes, turn around. He's probably going to do a big stretch. I've always noticed, oh, did you hurt yourself when you took that buffalo down? Yes, he did. Look there, he's got a bit of blood underneath his legs. I don't know if you noticed. He's coming right behind. Why do you have to come right next to the car? Senzel's favorite animal, literally walking inches away from him. I think he may have got a hook under his leg. So on the right side, I noticed a bit of blood. Yeah. So it's his right front leg that he's not too happy about. Oh, he's going to use the luxury facilities now. And that's actually quite a common injury, to get a hook underneath, or in the armpit, if you will. You can imagine when a lion does try to attack a buffalo, they are either going to jump on its back, and one of them will risk their lives, because that's what they do. The lions are putting their lives on the line every single time they go after buffalo. There we go. You see, just in between there, you see there's a bit of blood, and I think that's what's happened. I think he just got a little bit of a horn, but he's fine. He's got a limp. Don't get me wrong, it's there. But if push comes to shove, he'll be fine. He actually looks like he's loosening up a little bit now. That movement's getting better. So it's not a serious injury. You don't have to worry about him. I promise you he will be okay. But where's he going? He's embarrassed. He's using the luxury facilities now behind a sickle bush. But let's go across to Tristan, who's also got a raptor. Well, and it's eating something.
It is indeed. So this is that saw this morning. There it is in the tree, but I can't see what it's busy feeding on. It's got a kill of some sort, so it seems everybody is having a feast today. Something too. Now, I believe, unfortunately, we broke up, so for those of you that missed it, it is a Verreaux eagle owl, which is the largest owl species that we get here. It's a very beautiful individual. It's got these pink eyelids and really nice grey coloration. The owl's looking over its shoulder because the elephants are a bit low, so the elephants are starting to move into this area. Seb, I think let's go forward a little bit more because we might actually see what it's eating a bit better from the... So Byron's going to be very jealous because he loves these owls and he's always looking for owls, and to see one right out in the open at this proximity and to be able to see what it's actually got, I think that's just part of the bark. Seb. There we go. So you can hear the grey go-away birds also going crazy. They're not very happy about a eagle owl that is here in the midst of their jackalberry, which is fruiting. They're not happy about that at all. But I really don't know what it's eating at the moment. It looks like some sort of bird, maybe. Demonique, you say it looks so fluffy. Well, they are quite fluffy. Birds in general are very fluffy animals. They've got a lot of... So it is another bird. I just can't see what kind of bird it is. But they are very fluffy animals, and they need lots of fur and feathers to be able to actually stay nice and warm. Listen to this. So that's the grey go-away birds going crazy. They're not happy at all. Our owl looks completely unfazed by it. You can also see that there's ants crawling around on the kill. So Seb was showing you very nicely there that there are ants. And there we go. Look at this. How cool is this, guys? This is not something we see every day at all. I can't actually remember the last time we had an owl with a kill on camera. And look at how it uses that big recurved beak to tear off chunks of flesh. Wow. This is really cool. And very special. It's not something we're going to see every day, that's for sure. Here's quite a big chunk. Wow. I wonder where the mate is. Generally they're in pairs together, so there should be another one somewhere around here. Maybe the other one's sitting higher up in the tree. Or this one is being a little glutton and is feeding all by itself. You can see, look, it turns its head when it hears the elephants behind it. That's so cool. But I still can't make out what kind of bird it is. I'm not 100% sure. It looks like a young bird. I wonder if it hasn't grabbed a chick off one of the nests. We know that there's a few raptors that are nesting at the moment, and maybe with that kill, vultures and birds of prey might have gone in that direction, and they've gone and grabbed it, because it looks like quite a sort of whitish feathering, which looks more like a juvenile or a very small bird that has not yet got its adult plumage, because I don't recognize any of that plumage at all. And there's lots of down feathers there, big fluffy white feathers, or the down feathers, which chicks often have just to stay nice and warm and to be able to look after themselves, and so that they don't freeze, especially in these winter months. So I'm not 100% sure what it is, but that beak must be so powerful, because I can actually hear the bones breaking as it turns its head. This is very special. It goes feathers and all. And what you'll find with owls, they have a very specialized digestive system. So before I get into that, Francis, you're wondering if it's normal for owls to be awake during the day. Yes, Francis, it is. Owls do spend a majority of their time working around at night, but if there's an opportunity to hunt during the day, they will take it. And you'll find like the pearl-spotted owlets and barred owlets are actually more active around sunset and sunrise than they are even during the middle of the night. So it is not uncommon to see this. I have seen Verreaux eagle owls on multitude of kills during the day. They do actively hunt, and if there's an opportunity, they're going to take it. So this must have been a young bird in a nest, and the owl took its opportunity and grabbed it. But I was talking about their digestive system, so you'll see that this owl will be able to eat the feathers and varying bones and all kinds of parts of that bird. And what will happen is, as it swallows, it will go into its crop, and that crop will massage those bones and those feathers, and it will basically get rid of all of the bits of meat on it. Once that meat is separated, it then swallows the meat down into the proper stomach, and then that pellet starts to form, and the bones and feathers all get mulched together, and a little pellet. And then what you'll find is this owl will then regurgitate that pellet a little bit later. So after it's consumed and it's got all of that stuff that it's not able to digest, a little pellet will be regurgitated. And if you come into this area over the next few days and you walk around, you might actually find the pellet just below this tree somewhere, which will be a really cool thing to do. I'm sure Byron will have some time to have a look around this area next week, and maybe he does find the pellet. But if we have a look in the background, there's an Ellie that's having a good nap in the back. You see there, Seb? There's one lying down completely. So it's not just the owl that we've got our elephants that are also around. You know, just getting up now. We decided, mom's dust bathing, that's why you can't lie down when you're being covered in sand. So not only do we have an owl on a kill, we've got elephants in the background, and not just elephants, our short trunk herd as well. So wonderful to see, and it's such a special sighting this. I'm so impressed that we managed to come across this owl. It is really once in a lifetime that we're going to see it feeding at this proximity. We're right next to it, and there's not even a bit of foliage in front of it, which is very, very special. So I'm super excited, and you can hear some baboons also around. They seem to be excited about the owl too at this stage. Very cool. So owl above, elephants below. Doesn't get much better for a Friday afternoon, and like I said, it seems as though everybody's in feeding mode. LK, are you wondering if there's a reason for its pink eyelids? LK, as far as I know, no, there isn't a reason. You might find it's some part of being able to see one another in this foliage. You know, it's dense, thick, deep foliage, and these guys can actually camouflage very well, and maybe when they close their eyes they can see one another. But I haven't read anything that tends to suggest there's a real reason that they have pink eyelids and that there is a definitive use for them. So maybe there'll be some study that will be done on it eventually. It might be a visual cue to others to be able to spot them, but no, I have no idea whatsoever. It also looks as though, even though they've got pink eyelids, that there's no feathering on those eyelids, so maybe it's just that has something to do with it, but I'm not 100% sure, to be honest. But look at that big eye. You see how large their eye is? So you can see that. Was that a tasty and yummy? Look at that. That's like when you have your favorite meal and you're just absolutely savoring the taste. That was what just happened with our owl. Our owl looked as though it was loving that last morsel as it swallowed it down. But we are not going to get better visuals of an owl than what we have right now. This is absolutely amazing. Dina, you say what a lovely combination of sightings. Well, Dina, indeed. It's an incredible actual day that we've had so far. It just seems as though action has abounded from everywhere, and we've gone through a few quiet patches, and then this morning it was just chaos with the lions all over the place, and now this afternoon it just seems as though we've got such beautiful sightings. I'm sure the sighting of Nsuku is beautiful out in the open, and now our owl on his kill of his own, elephants down below. It doesn't really get much better than this, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. I hope all of you at home are as well. Now, I was talking about the beautiful Nsuku and the sighting that they've got, and I'm sure it is a beautiful sighting, so let's go across and just have a little look as to what Nsuku is up to. Hopefully he's not being gruesome and eating the face off the buffalo like he was this morning, and he's rather posing in this late afternoon light.
He was at one point, he's now just turned on us. Can you believe that? Literally, he turned his head around. Let's reposition. I'm also intrigued because I can hear Franklin's sounding very nervous in the corner. I wonder if that lioness is not on her way back. We'll reposition so that we can get a spot so we can have a look at Nsuku's face. He's a very pretty lion. Let's just scan through the long grass in the distance as well. I wonder what has ruffled those birds' feathers. Actually, I'll just go right through here. Can't see anything coming towards us. We'll actually stop right here. That's nice. Hello, beautiful. But he hasn't really done much grooming since you last saw us. He's really just been biting the air, trying to chase the flies away. I'm surprised there aren't more flies about. There's only a couple on the carcass, and there's only a few bothering him. And the reason why they are bothering him is because he hasn't cleaned himself up. His mane is so tattered at the moment, and it's all stuck together because of the blood from the buffalo. So that's not particularly nice. I know what it's like if I accidentally brush my teeth and spit the toothpaste onto my hair. That's terrible. So I can't imagine what it would be like when eating a buffalo. Now, Kimberly, you have asked how old is Nsuku. We're not 100% sure, but he's anywhere between 6.5 and 7 years old. Probably closer to 7, maybe even a little bit older than 7. They're around there. And they haven't quite reached the 8-year-old mark. I think they're getting there. They've just come into the prime now of their lives, really. And the next couple of years will be quite tough for him. They always bite him near his tail. That's something I've definitely noticed every time I've seen Nsuku, who's always chasing the flies away. He's very uncomfortable. You can see biting left, right. But he's such a stunning lion. He's got a beautiful mane. And now he's facing the other way. Typical. It's so funny. He keeps moving around. Shall we also keep moving around? What do you think, Senzo? I think so. Let's go around again. Now, Nasir, you say that, come on, flies, don't bother the king. There we go, I like that. Yeah, he'll show them. We'll just keep going round and round. Like I said, he's not moving because of us, he's moving because the flies are really annoying him. And we'll just go around, we'll have another look. It actually opens up nicely here. So we should have a great view. I love the scene with a sea of golden grass, and then of course Nsuku with his golden mane and his golden eyes. It's all very, very pretty to see. And of course the dark sky up ahead is quite nice too now. I can smell lion dung. It's delicious. Hopefully I haven't driven over it. That'll be upsetting. Lion dung is like tar. It doesn't come off your tires. So he's not hungry obviously right now. He's waiting, I think, so his food digests a little bit more. Maybe he needs some encouragement. Like I said, if one vulture comes down, a few more will, and then I think he'll race on over to the carcass and actually start eating it. But for now he's quite happy to just be sitting away. Maybe he's actually moved to try and get away from the flies as well. That's another possibility. Because the flies will hang around the carcass, but they do bother them too, you know, trying to get into their eyes and up their nose and near their nether regions. It's not particularly comfortable. I know how annoyed I get, of course, when the flies try and sit on me. And I'm not going to let them sit on me today because they've been on the carcass. Jenny, you've said that he needs his own fly swatter. He does have one though. He's got a tail. He's got pretty big paws too. They could do the job, and then we see him snapping at the air. So he's trying to get rid of them. Let's see if he's going to start and do a little bit of grooming now. Like I said, he's neglected himself today. He's not put a brush through his mane. I don't know what he's doing there. It doesn't quite look like he's grooming. It looks like he was trying to get something out of his paw. Or something got stuck on his tongue. Isn't that lovely? He always looks like he feels sorry for himself, though. He always looks sad. He had a couple of nicks on his nose too, but I think that could have been from the females, giving him a little bit of a hiding every now and then. They look like claw marks, or could have been from one of the other Birmingham boys too. And he's turned again. Oh, here we go, over the shoulder pose. Yeah, it's so nice. This is so pretty. Gee, Skinner, you've said that this may be a silly question. There's no such thing as silly questions, I promise you. And the question is, would oxpeckers ever clean a wound on a lion? I've never seen it. I don't think so. I don't think the lions would stand for it. You can see how they don't even tolerate the flies sitting anywhere on them. So I think the birds would be chased away, and if they're unlucky, even caught by a lion, so they keep away. Remember, those birds see lions as predators. Now, they typically don't go and groom predators. They just groom the animals that don't really bother them, that are not wanting to eat them. Can you imagine oxpeckers on a little young lion cub? They could actually be quite funny. It'll probably keep them entertained all day, bouncing from one to the other. Little lion stumbling over its feet. They're not always too steady at the beginning. But now, come on, boy. We'd love it if you went over to the carcass now. That would be nice. Not quite ready, though. But at least he's got his head up. I suppose that's an improvement, isn't it? So Tristan is still sitting with that beautiful bird of prey. Let's go have a look and see if it has finished eating its meal.
It hasn't, Taylor. It's decided that it's time for a little nap before carrying on feeding. So it seems as though it's feeling a little bit full, and it's just going to sit and wait until the feeling passes and it can then start feeding again. But this has got to be some of the best views possible of this owl. It is so relaxed. I mean, we're sitting no more than 10 meters from this owl, and it really is an incredible experience because the owls generally tend to be a little bit nervous and tend to be quite flighty, but this particular individual is absolutely wonderful and providing us with the most beautiful sighting. I'm really so chuffed that we were able to spend time with an owl like this. It's not something, as I said just now, that we'll see every day, so very, very cool to see. And I would love to know where it hunted and what it grabbed, because it would be very interesting in terms of just a prey sort of knowledge as to what they're actually hunting in this particular section. But it's not going to get better than that. A full portrait of a Verreaux eagle owl as it looks towards us. Isn't that amazing? And you can see the beautiful facial disc, the light white around the eyes to help bring light in at night. Big binocular vision to help with depth perception, which is very common on predatory birds or predatory animals. We know the lions have very similar facial structures. And then that massive beak. What a wonderful sighting this is. KJ, you're asking what the life expectancy is of a giant eagle or Verreaux eagle owl. I'm actually not sure, KJ, to be honest. We spend so little time with them. I've never actually looked up the life expectancy of a owl, but let's have a look. I've got a book here that maybe we can try and see if there isn't something inside here that tells us about it. I would imagine that it's a fairly long-lived bird. Given its size, you find a lot of the bigger sort of eagles and larger birds live for quite long, so 15-20 years. But let's have a look and see. I'm just quickly trying to find it, but I'm actually not 100% sure, to be honest. It's one of those things that we don't really look at that often, so it's difficult to know exactly how long they live for. Just trying to find some sort of sign of it, but I can't see anything at this stage. I'll keep having a look through, and maybe I'll find it while we just look upon our beautiful owl. The Ellies are still around. We don't have a great visual of them at the moment, given that we moved slightly forward to get a better visual of our owl itself, so I don't really have great visual of them, but hopefully they're going to come up and start. Delriz, you're wondering if owls will hunt snakes. Well, Delriz, some I would imagine, but remember that a lot of the snakes don't move around too much at night because they know the chances of moving around at night means that they could potentially be prey and fall victim to lots of predators. There's leopard, there's lion, there's genets, there's civets, all of which, white-tailed mongoose, all of which will go after a snake, and so most of the snakes will seek refuge at night in some sort of a thicket or try and not spend too much of their time out. But owls have a very wide variety of food, particularly these giant eagle owls or Verreaux eagle owls. They, at the end of the day, will eat all kinds of things. I've seen them eating genets, I've seen them eating baby civets, seen them eating a baby baboon. So they go after mammals. I wouldn't see why they would be scared of going after a snake or two either. So they are definitely major predators of all kinds of different things, mostly mammals, but I wouldn't be surprised they will then go after snakes and reptiles as well. But I can't find anything as yet on our eagle owls, so I'll just have to look. Maybe some of you at home might know, #SafariLive, if you do know the life expectancy of a Verreaux eagle owl. It's really quite interesting. honestly have never really thought of it that much, but I would imagine my guess would be somewhere between 12 and 15 years. That's where I would go for, maybe even around 10, but I would somewhere around that area. Between 10 and 15 would be my sort of guess, somewhere around that sort of estimate. And I was really hoping it would start feeding again. It was just so interesting to watch it feed and to watch how the beak works. It's such an insight into something we so rarely see that it's worth spending some time and waiting. I know it's a bird, and I know a lot of people probably wouldn't worry too much, but for us this is such a special and a rare occurrence that it's worth sitting and worth enjoying and taking it in and watching how this bird goes about its business. It's not every day that we get a lesson and in such close proximity as to how they actually go about dismantling their prey items. What is very, very obvious is the way that it's eaten already is it's taken the innards out of that particular carcass. You can see it's opened up the cavity, pulled the innards out, and it's then feeding off all of the flesh around that. So they're not actually eating too much of the innards that I can see. I would expect them to eat, though, the heart and liver and all the nutritious organs, much like what lions would, but they might discard some things. I'm trying to look on the ground and see if there's anything there, but I don't see any signs of bits on the ground. It's just a few feathers that have floated down every now and then. So interesting just to see how they feed, but they definitely go abdomen first into that cavity and get rid of all of that, and then when we saw it feeding, it was pecking around the rib area of that bird. The thing about birds, and what's much easier than eating something like a genet or one of those small mammals, is that they're able to break the bones a lot easier. A bird's bones are very, very fragile. They're very light because obviously birds have got to fly. They can't have the heavy bone structure and dense bone structure that mammals have. They wouldn't be able to get off the ground, so they've got much lighter bone structures, and that means that this owl will probably be able to break through most of that, and I would imagine it's going to consume pretty much everything bar a few of the feathers, but I would think it would eat all the rest of it as it goes about its business. So I tell you what, let's have a look at the Ellies while our owl is having a hiatus in its feeding pattern. I'm just going to reposition for Seb so that we can watch our Ellies dust bathe, and if our owl starts to position next.
Sorry about that, everybody. It seems as though the gremlins are really putting in a good effort today. But Tristan will be back and up and running, of course. Now, our dear friend Nsuku has now laid down. He's completely flat. You almost have to play Spot the Lion in the grass. Oh, he put his hand up for you so you could see him. He's not ready to do anything just yet. I'm wondering how much more patient I can be. But isn't that a lovely scene? That's definitely something I'm going to miss, are these beautiful big marula trees. Oh, you can just hear a car shuffling around as well. But he is fast asleep now. Just enjoying, I think, the last of the daylight. Using it to his advantage. Because I think he is going to have to sort of put up a bit of a fight around here later on tonight. It'll be interesting to hear. Unfortunately, my game drive radio is not working very well. Everyone's talking, but I can only hear every fourth word that they say, and then it's very difficult to try and figure out what people are talking about. But hopefully, if Tristan hears that those male lions are on the move, I'm sure he will race in down that section. And hopefully they come this way. That will be the best bet, of course. But now we just really have to wait it out. Is Nsuku going to get up and go and feed on the carcass? Is he going to go for a drink of water? What is he going to do next? Or is he just going to simply sit and continue snapping at the flies? Are you heading out? Cheers. But that's all for now, really. No new updates just yet. I haven't seen any more vultures coming in. Now, Christine, wondering about why the hyenas haven't come here yet. Well, typically the hyenas aren't necessarily active during the day. They're more active at night. You can see them moving around during the day. I most certainly have, just as you see lions and leopards moving around too. But they'll be resting up. I think they'll come through here a little bit later. Or what's also going to happen is if those big Birminghams, the 3 at Sydney's Dam, come this way, the hyenas might actually go in the opposite way. Perhaps they go to Sydney's Dam and feast upon that buffalo carcass and eat the remainder. Because then it's not going to be really difficult. They don't have to put up a fight. They've just got to fight one another, really. And then they'll clean up that crew, and then the next day they'll probably come around here and clean this one up as well. But it's really hard to say. We can only speculate for the moment until we see what develops tonight. And it might not happen straight away too. You know, they could change their minds. Maybe they only come out a little bit later. But something that we're definitely going to be doing is listening out for altercations between the cats and the hyenas. Right, what I'm going to do is I think let's reposition again. We're just going to keep doing that. Let's see, there's a couple of bumpy bits here. They weren't very nice to drive over. We'll go around the other side. Yeah. Turn quickly. It's a pity that he hasn't woken up. It would have been really nice to see him. Maybe he's still got a bit of time to wake up and feed in the golden light. That would be really incredible. Good for your screenshots, of course. And I keep checking around to see if there's the lionesses coming back. But no luck so far. It's an awkward spot, I'm afraid. He's not lying in a really nice spot now. You can have a look for yourself if you'd like. He's laying in the grass. And at a bizarre angle for us. Not for him, it's just an inconvenience for us. But we'll work around something like that. Oh, a little bit disappointed in Nsuku that he did some beautiful yawns for us. He looked like he was going to groom himself. Normally after they do get up and relieve themselves, they'll come back and start feeding. But it's obviously not the case yet, so it just shows you it doesn't happen all the time. He's tricked us. My goodness, his mane is definitely the same color of the grass. But you can also see now that the different tones in the mane, how it also aids in the camouflage. Only thing that's really moving is his paws every now and then. And I don't know what good looking up does, because looking at the flies is not going to chase them away in Suku. You're going to have to use that tail of yours. He does keep swatting it around. I do feel a bit bad for them being bitten by the flies all the time, but they get used to it, I'm sure. Now, Ian, you're wondering if these lions ever get worms. Most certainly. I'm sure that he's filled with all sorts of parasites, but it's normal for these animals out here to have a certain amount of worms in their body. And again, there'll be lots of different parasites living in and amongst the intestines, but they go about it. Obviously, they can get an infestation and die, but again, something like that would maybe only happen if that animal became weak. If something was wrong with it, then parasites like that would end up thriving. But otherwise, a healthy lion has, like I said, I'm not sure how many worms that they have within their body. Perhaps somebody knows the answer. You can always let us know. But it's, yes, unfortunately they can't get dewormed like you and I deworm ourselves. Well, I hope you are, especially if you've got pets, and how you deworm your cats and dogs at home too. But we'll sit here, and I'm hoping that I'll play the patience game and it will pay off. Tristan, however, is back with the elephants.
I am. We're just watching the elephants slowly feeding along the Mulawati. You can see their feet moving through the sand, trunks bouncing around as they sniff out varying food particles that lie just below the sand. So it's been such a joy watching this herd. They've been so relaxed down below. Our Verreaux eagle owl up above. It's just a magical scene, really. It can't get too much better than what we have here. So we really are very fortunate to see what we see. You can see the one putting a trunk over its head, so it was quite funny. He's just dropped his trunk down, but they had their trunk over their head. Oh no, now I've got to chase a starling. Starlings are not welcome in the feeding zone of the elephants. Look, there we go. When you're a starling, you've got to give way to a big, great grey beast as it moves past you. So there we go, off into the shade and into the kind of dense foliage, so I don't think we're going to see too much of them, although they are moving up the Mulawati, and there's a little crossing that comes out towards the dam, so I'm hoping that from there they're just going to come out and actually come for a drink and be able to, we'll see them sort of having a little thirst quenching session. It's always nice when there are Ellies around and they do go and play around in the water. Our young male seems to have moved the opposite way. He's no longer seems to be around with us, so he seems to have gone down and separated from Short Trunk's herd. Maybe he wasn't invited to the rest of the party tonight. It's a Friday night after all. Maybe Short Trunk and them are going for a family dinner and they've decided no boyfriends are welcome at this stage. It's amazing how they just disappear after being so exposed. You see these big grey animals, and all of a sudden they go into a thicket, and that body really does magically start to rescind into the greys and dull tones of the bush. Particularly in shady areas like that, elephants really do blend in. So if you looked at that picture and you looked, other than the elephant legs on the left hand side, but the one that we were looking at has completely melted in, and there it is, deeper inside. So it's a wonderful example of just how even the largest animals out here have some sort of camouflage that blends with the environment. Everything is just perfectly suited to the way that it needs to survive and the places that it needs to be. It's a wonderful example of nature's efficiency and how things work out here. But our eagle owl is going to be really special in, I would say, the next 15 minutes. The sun is about to drop below a cloud. You can see it's starting to come out, and it should start shining directly onto this owl's face, and we might get this beautiful view of this owl. I'm going to go forward again because our Ellies are moving off. So let's try and reposition ourselves. This owl. There we go. I was just telling one of the other guys, because I'm not on my radio, that this owl is here and that it's worth coming. But there we go. Sabi, how's that? With a little bit of light now touching the face. It's kind of just exposing those eyelids a little bit more, making them look a little bit more vibrant. It really is very pretty indeed. There we go. Oh, that certainly woke the owl up. Noisy neighbors. But you can see, like I said, there's just that patch of sunlight just on the eyes itself. That is absolutely beautiful. Oh, a little grooming. Once the neighbors wake you up, you've got to kind of make sure that all the feathers are in good shape unless they come along. But how wonderful is this? Megs, if you can just repeat that. Sorry, my earpiece fell out as you said that. I just heard something about flying. Kimberly, you want to know how far an owl can fly? Well, Kimberly, these owls that we see in this particular section don't fly far at all. They are short flyers. They don't have the wings that are designed for soaring and for flying long distances. Most of our owls here are territorial in a certain area, and so they'll just move from tree to tree, and it's just short little flaps as they go along. They're not birds that like to fly up in the sky and soar and cover massive amounts of ground. You'll find any of your territorial birds tend to be short flyers. So with these Verreaux eagle owls, they'll move up and down this Mulawati system, and maybe short little flights out of the Mulawati, but definitely not very far at all. I was following a pair of spotted eagle owls the other day, and when they were flying in bursts of maybe, I would say, 50 meters at a time, and then they would land, and then 50 meters and land. So they weren't really going too far at all. Of course, they can cover more distance than that, but being big animals with quite short stubby wings, there's a lot of energy that's going to go into them flying, and so they would rather rest in places like this and then make those short bursts as they need to, as they follow prey around. But you can see the eyelids are pink because there's no feathers on there. So maybe the way that this skull is designed, the eyelids going back into the head, the feathers wear off, and that's why we end up with these very pink eyelids. It certainly makes them look quite dapper, doesn't it? Very. There we go, a little wink just for the ladies, just say, look at my beautiful pink eyelids. But I wonder what it's thinking. Paula, as I was saying just now, the owls are territorial, so no, they don't migrate. They are not moving in and out of this area. All of the owls that we see are resident here, so they have a area that they will hang about in, and so these Verreaux eagle owls, if we keep coming and checking here, we should see them pretty much all throughout the year. It's not easy to see them against sometimes these camouflage trees, and the way that their feathers work means that they do blend in very well, but you will find them from time to time in the same places as the year goes on. So they're not going to migrate, they're not going to fly anywhere out of this area. Our pearl-spotted barred, scops, white-faced, Verreaux, our grass, marsh, all of those owls are resident in their areas. They don't move in a sort of migratory circuit. which is very nice. So when you find owls, that's why we get so excited when we find owls like this, because it means that we've got owls for quite some time ahead that we can come and try and find, and to be able to show all of you. It's a lovely thing to have. Owls are one of my favorite birds, and because we see so little of them, to be able to sit like this in close proximity to one that's completely unfazed by us. Normally they would have flown. At this distance you would never normally get this close to an owl, and it would have flown away, but this guy seems completely unfazed by us and is just relaxing and taking it very easy, which is very special indeed. Of course, I'm not loving the noisy neighbors at all. The elephants are breaking branches, and our poor owl is kind of looking around as if to say, I'm trying to get some sleep here. I was interrupted by lunch, but now I want to get a bit of a nap. And look at the gold color on the wings now from the sun. Isn't that beautiful? And all the patterns that they've got. I love how intricately detailed feathers are. We often overlook it, particularly birds like this that appear to be more drab and more sort of, not colorful like the starlings, but there is so much detail in all of those feathers. It really is a wonderful study of how beautiful any bird actually is. Now, talking about beauty and golden light, I reckon that Nsuku this afternoon is going to be absolutely beautiful in his sea of grass. So let's jump across and see just how beautiful that shot is lining up to be.
If he turns around, Tristan, everything that you just said will ring true. He is a beautiful cat. He really is an absolute pleasure to look at. Now, speaking of lions, I can't wait, and I hope that I get the opportunity to meet the various prides of lions that roam the Masai Mara, and hopefully also to meet Scar, a very famous lion. And I'm looking forward to, of course, learning a lot about the new characters that have joined us, which is quite nice. But don't worry, I won't forget our fellow faithful friends here in the Sabi sand. Like I said, I'm not going to be gone forever. I will be back before you even know it. Look at him. He is so uncomfortable at the moment. And I'm sure every time he moves, he's probably cringing because he's got that little wound under his arm. Hopefully he gets to a point where we can actually see the damage. But like I said, I mean, he walked, he was limping, and he was fine all of a sudden. It didn't look too bad at all. So perhaps it didn't, the end of the horn didn't go in too deep. Maybe it just hooked his skin and just sort of opened up a small wound. But we've seen these cats with serious injuries, and they know the risks of taking on a buffalo. Even if it is just a buffalo cow, her horns were exceptionally sharp and could do a whole lot of damage. So I'm glad that he wasn't hurt too badly. It's just a minor injury, and I'm sure within a couple of days, maybe a week or so, he'll be up and running, 100%. Shame, boy. I'm sorry that those flies are really annoying you. They should start to settle down soon. The sun's going to go down, and the flies are not nocturnal. Well, not most of these flies. They should go and rest up on the trees, and then they'll be back again at first light. So he hasn't got too much longer to go. What is the time even? It is almost 5 o'clock. We don't have too much light left. Just a little bit longer. It's such a pretty sight. It really is. And I mean, I can say it 150 times, but it really doesn't do Nsuku too much justice. Even though he hasn't given himself a groom in what looks like days. That again just could be from the tussle that he had with the buffalo this morning that's made his hair look a little bit messy. He always manages to look so regal, don't you think? I haven't heard any updates yet. I did manage to reset my radio, and it seems to be working a little bit better now. I didn't hear any updates of the Birmingham boys at Sydney's Dam, so I'm not actually sure whereabouts they are, if they're still even there. I did hear, though, I think it was somewhere in Torchwood, that they have found a Dacre kill. And they're looking for the culprit, which I suspect will be a leopard that would have done that. It could have been a lion or a cheetah or many different things. So they're having a look around for who's ever's done that. And we're lucky. I thought that I was actually going to have to leave the sighting quite quickly this afternoon. But maybe everybody's sick of lions now after spending so much time with them this morning, which suits me absolutely perfect. We can have a lion day today, and it's going to continue because I'm going to send you all the way to Kenya now. Jamie's up and running, and she's got a pride of lioness.
Our lionesses, and in this particular case, the herds wandering in their direction. It seems as though Verreaux and myself, after a, really truly unlucky evening yesterday, have been lucky this afternoon. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon, as I said, Verreaux is on camera with me, and we, of course, will be up all night. But for now, welcome to the Mara portion of this sunset safari, where we've got some truly lovely scenes in front of us. There we go. The Sausage Tree Pride have once again proved to be heroes after being evasive for the last 2 weeks or so. Finally managed to catch up with them once again. And the marvelous thing is that the herds have moved around, and they went all the way down south back towards Tanzania, and today, just because we're going to get lucky, they have decided to return. First the zebra, and then I saw earlier a line of wildebeest on their way here as well. So we've been exceptionally lucky. Now the trick, of course, is to stay with them in case it starts to rain. That is going to be our biggest challenge this afternoon. So for those of you that are new to these live safaris, or perhaps you've missed some of our Mara shows, this is the Sausage Tree Pride, 2 lionesses and 4 cubs, one of whom is now hidden, but is very, very distinctive. It's the palest little lion cub I've ever seen that's not actually a leucistic or a white lion. She's hidden at the moment, but we've got 4 little cubs with very empty bellies. And they tried their hand earlier, and unfortunately we were battling off gremlins at the time. They tried their hand earlier at hunting the zebra. They are, of course, far too young and far too inexperienced, and actually just far too small to even think about catching one. But they were so hungry that they decided to give it a try, watched over by the mothers as they watched their offspring basically learn from their own mistakes. And they crept all the way up through the grass up to the zebra, and then the zebra started snorting at them and they got scared, and they had to run back to mum. So a really beautiful scene. So far we've been lucky. The rain has moved away. Earlier on, Serena was pretty much covered by cloud, and it looked as though it was howling down that way. But I think we're going to get lucky tonight, touch wood. We won't have to do the whole rain experience. Don't forget to send through your questions on #SafariLive on Twitter. I suspect that these lionesses are going to wait until darkness sets in. They're not going to be able to stalk up to the zebra now. It is far too light, first of all, and there's not enough grass cover. A couple of weeks ago, they would have been able to do it very easily. Hello to James Richard, who said that he didn't expect the Mara feed today, and that he's basically, saying hello to us. And of course, generally speaking, on these afternoons, we're rushing around trying to essentially find ourselves a migration, where the wildebeest are, the lions, set ourselves up for tomorrow's television show, which will be our finale of the migration special for now. And we generally don't make an appearance. However, we're here. We've been sitting with the sausages for the last few hours. We left super early because I couldn't find any lions yesterday. And voila, within half an hour, we were sitting with a hungry pride of lions. So we're happy. Brent and Scott have gone across to the other side of the river to search for the cheetah. Now, Rita, looking at these cubs, you want to know how old they are. I would say that... thanks for that, lions. Much appreciated. I would say that the youngest set are around about 4 or so months old. I'd say the oldest set are close to 6 months or thereabouts. 2 older and 2 younger. And the one little pale one is much, much tinier than her sibling. And I think one of the things I've been trying to do while I've been sitting here this afternoon is to actually try and get the sexes of the 2 cubs. And I think, oh, hello, heads popping up. I think that we've got 2 boys and 2 girls. One each from each age group, if that makes any sense. Heads up. Shame little cubs are so hungry. They'd be nagging their mums for food. You will see, of course, there's another vehicle, as you know. These amazing spectacles, and we have not yet got to the point of gate closing times. So once the gates do close at around about 6:30, Liam and myself and our ranger Joshua will be the only people out here. We will be the only people in the Mara Triangle, which is very special. Oh, it's bath time. Here's our little pale cub going for a walk. And you only really see it when you see her up close to the rest of them and when the light is shining on her, just how pale she is. And one cub rolling over and giving us a view of spotty bellies. Helps to camouflage them, of course, when they're younger. Keep them hidden away in their den sites. Oh. They've been terribly sweet today. Plonk. Don't sit on your cousin. Here we go. One of them had an attempt at a nibble on the wildebeest skeleton that they're hanging around, but it didn't yield much in the way of nutrients. It wasn't very entertaining. Oh, sweet. Well, we're going to stay with our sausages, obviously, as long as we possibly can, which hopefully will be all night until tomorrow morning. I believe that is what Brent has planned with his male lions on the other side of the river.
Well, we're with the Bilashaka nomads, and they have managed to successfully kill. They didn't last night. Welcome to the Musiara Marsh. When I say the Musiara Marsh, we are literally in, well, a dry section of the marsh, thankfully. My name is Brent Smith. I have the dangerous Dave Eastor on camera, and we're with a dangerous group of male lions, the Bilashaka boys. Now, unlike Nsuku, who has got a whole buffalo to himself that is now bloated and fat and smelly and mank, these boys have managed to catch a wildebeest, and there is almost nothing left. And there are 4 of them that have been feeding off. The 2 older Bilashaka boys are a bit distracted at the moment with lady friends, so each of them has a young female consort. One is behind, one is in front. We can actually just make out. Oh no, let's stick there. Anyway, there's 2 of the other boys lying there, and you can see the migration just behind. So I, like Jamie, will be with these lions for the rest of the evening, all the way through tomorrow morning. And I am hoping they'll get on the hunt. The 3rd boy is lying off to the right slightly. Now, they have fed, but they are by no means full. So with that massive wildebeest close by, there's a very good chance that later on tonight they will get up and get on the hunt again. Now, I'm just putting Dave in an awkward position now. Look at that. That's about all that's left, apart from the head and a few bits of ribs, the esophagus, and some pieces of the lungs that they've decided is just not really what they want at the moment. They might change their mind and come eat that a little bit later. But this is a female wildebeest and look like a little bit of a young one. So you can... Actually, I'm just going to keep quiet so you can hear the crushing of the rib cage that's going on at the moment. Yum, yum. So there are 3 different ages of the Bilashaka boys, but while we've got one munching down, Jan Eric would like to know, how long can a lion go without food? They can probably go as long as 2 weeks, but it will be very dire by that stage. Normally they don't go much longer than 3 or 4 days without a good meal. But one must remember that in those situations, we might not see them on a kill, but they will eat small things like tortoises and monitor lizards and anything they can, because, of course, survival is key out in the African wilderness. Now, as I said, there are 6 males in this coalition. They're called the Bila Shaka nomads. They have come from the east of here, around the Olorok River, and they have now seemed to have settled quite well into the Musiara Marsh area. And of course, this is an incredibly productive area throughout the year, not only during the migration. There are lots of animals around. But the 2 older boys, who are just under 4 years old, have decided that they are very, very hungry, but that's because they are completely distracted by ladies. Typical older teenage boys. And just in front of us, you can just make out in the distance one of the males who's after. Is that one left a bit, Dave? There we go. Oh no, that's a female. And you can see there's just animals all around them. The male should be around there somewhere, but we can't see them. But the mating pairs, the 2 of them, are absolutely starved at the moment. And I'm hoping that maybe because of all the mating, they are really, really hungry. Their bellies are concaved, which is the complete opposite to a fat Nsuku back in the Sabi sands.
That's correct, Brent. He definitely is fat and lazy at the moment, but that could change at any moment because it's getting to that golden hour now, which is really cool. But I have a joke for all of you. Are you ready for it? I thought, seeing as though it's quite a sad scene with this buffalo just laying on Suku being attacked by flies, I'd share one with you. What do you call a lion wearing earmuffs? Now, you can't interweb, you can't search for the answer of the joke, you've just got to guess. Hashtag Safari Live. Let's see who comes up with the most interesting answer. So Megan's going to be searching for them. And Megan, don't worry, it's all set and ready. I did that while we were off air. I'm not telling you what I'm talking to Megan about, that's for sure. Unfortunately, you just have to wait and see. But yes, but no new updates just yet, but we have to be patient. It sounds like the other Birmingham boys haven't woken up either. Apparently they're just a carpet of cats at the moment. I'm not sure what the Djuma Lionesses are up to. I did hear a couple of vehicles heading that way, and they're not on a kill, I don't think. They must have eaten something small though. Maybe they'll come back this side too. Again, we're just speculating. We can only really wait and see. I know Tristan said once he finishes up with his hour, once the sun sets, he's probably going to go towards those the 3 Birmingham boys, and hopefully they'll make their approach this way. Wouldn't that be an unbelievable reunion? I think it will be. I think it will be very, very impressive. Imagine seeing 4 lions fighting over a buffalo carcass. Oh, wow. That's what dreams are made of when you're a safari guide. Well, look, there's lots of other things, of course. Cute elephant sightings and things like that are great too. But to have so much power in one sighting is quite impressive, of course. I think what I'm going to do, though, is I think I'm going to reposition. Sorry, we are just right next to another car, so I just want to move out of the way. We'll go around. So it's not nice to hear all the other voices constantly coming from the back, and we will pick them up, so we'll just reposition for now. Around, we're going to go the scenic way around. It's not going to be the greatest view, but we know that he is rolling around. Maybe he'll turn over this way. Now, Gary, that's not the answer to your question. You're talking about, obviously, the Birmingham boys joining up. You said that it sounds like something you'd like to see. That's fantastic. That's really cool. We'll just poke our noses here. Answer. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about the lions wearing earmuffs. So you said, oh, no, that's not the answer I was looking for. But it would be quite funny, don't you think? Though, technically, they almost do look like they're wearing earmuffs. They're very hairy. Lady Lone Wolf, you say a lion muffin. Obviously, these are the answers to my very silly joke. Not quite. Good, though. I'm loving the creativeness. We'll do one more. It's here. Wello Wanderer, you've searched for the answer. Here comes the Lioness, because you got it right. No, I can't do my joke thing. Ah. So the answer to that was, you can call him anything you want, he won't hear you. So either you've heard that joke before, or you've searched it word for word on the internet. Very sneaky. That's not loud, just by the way. That's what we call cheating here in South Africa. But here's our Lioness. She's back, and I'm pretty sure it's the youngest girl again. Let me move. I'm just trying to see. She's going to go around there. Birmingham doesn't even know that she's here yet. Perhaps her footprints are being muffled by the wind. Senzo, let me quickly reposition. Let me get a good angle for you. See what she's going to do. Just deciding which way we're going to go around to get the best spot. I'm thinking. Okay, we'll try another joke just now. Please don't, if we do jokes, it's fun, of course, just to answer them. It's not nice when you search them. She's looking at him, look at that. She's looking at him and he doesn't even know she's there. That's so funny. Fast asleep, he's going to get a big fright. So you've come back, have you fed your little ones? You're going to go straight and nibble on the carcass. I think she's just being a little bit wary. You know, she's sussing and trying to figure out which lion that is, I'm sure, because, you know, he could have also got up and moved and other different lions could have come into the area. So she's just being careful. She's got a big full belly and I can see nice suckle marks. Okay, let me reposition again. So that's good. So she's definitely been suckling her little ones. So yay, they've also had a meal. Go around this way. She's sneaky though. She came quite a long way around. I would have thought she would have come a more direct route. He still doesn't know. What a silly big lion. He's fast asleep. I'm just trying to get it, sorry Sen, so that we don't get the other car. We'll just here for now and then we'll go the other side. Sorry everyone, I'm just trying to make it the best view for, of course, you. But you can see there is another vehicle. Oh, now she's using the luxury facilities before she starts to feast. And not really worrying about starting on a new spot. She's going to go straight into the easiest point to get into that buffalo. And Mr. Nsuku is still fast asleep. But I'll tell you when he gets up, I'll keep an eye. But even she doesn't look particularly hungry, but they'll constantly keep gorging themselves. It's very important. They do want to eat the meal as quick as possible. Obviously, lions being the top predator, barring crocodiles, they don't really have too much to worry about. But again, if a huge clan of hyena comes through, and there definitely is no shortage of hyenas in the sand, they could quite easily chase the lions off and then they would lose their kill. But this is an exceptional sighting. So it's like when I told you about, of course, the elephant that died down in the southern sands, and there must have been about 50 hyena that chased lions off of the elephant carcass. That was really impressive. Right, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer. I'm going to send you back to Jamie and her lions.
Look at our little lion cub enjoying what looks to be a vulture feather. I think that's what it is. Probably scattered when they were feeding off the remains of this wildebeest. And these cubs are so hungry that they just want to nibble absolutely around the ribs or the pelvis. Anything will suffice. And while we've been sitting here, it's amazing how quickly it works. The zebra have disappeared. The wildebeest have disappeared. They're still around. It goes to show just how quickly everything can change out here. And even though it looks as though everything's moving slowly, it's not. Oh, big stretch. From what looks like was that a little male or was that a little female? I forgot to look. It was such a perfect opportunity as well. Maybe some of you managed to see whether that cub on the right was a male or a female. There we go. Rib tug of war. Come on. Share with me. Share with me. Rita answer, no, lionesses don't necessarily have cubs at a specific time of year. They breed all year round. The unique thing about them, or relatively unique thing about them, is their ability to synchronize their estrus cycles. So essentially, their ability to have cubs, that looks like a little girl, to have cubs at the exact same time or within a couple of months of each other. And that in turn is hugely beneficial for the cubs, because it means that either female or any female in the pride that has cubs will suckle cubs, whether they are hers or those belonging to her sister or her mother or her daughter. She won't distinguish between them. And that is exceptionally beneficial for little cubs as they grow up. Yes, there's your wildebeest skull. Memories of a better time, huh? When food was abundant. We always talk about the fact that it seems almost wasteful, the amount that the lions kill. But once these wildebeest... you poke yourself in the face, you nearly took out your eye, you silly thing. And just remember that once these wildebeest have moved through, when they begin their journey back towards Tanzania and into Serengeti, there will be no grass, hunting will be hard, and it will not be nearly as easy for the predators of the Masai Mara. I mean, I think they struggle, actually. A lot of people have told me that they struggle. I've said they don't, but having seen the destruction of the grass from the wildebeest herds, I actually think it must get really tricky for them. And having spoken to a lot of people who've been here for many, many years, it becomes hard once the wildebeest have left. At the moment, though, that is far beyond this cub's concern. It doesn't know it even has to bother about that. Yes, you bat that wildebeest. Practice those skills. Yes, that's the nose. That's where you're going to have to bite one day.